Have you got yourself to the end of this year feeling like you haven't done enough? Maybe feeling anxious, maybe feeling tired, feel like this is a pattern that's repeated year after year. You're just hanging on to the end of the year. It doesn't have to be that way. I'll explain to you today on this episode why you get yourself into these patterns, how that plays out throughout different elements of your life. And importantly, at the end, I'm going to tell you how you can start changing that and set yourself up for 2025 in the best possible way. I'm Ian Hawkins, and this is Sport is Life. The purpose of sport, as I see it, is to see your vision become a reality, find your voice, create strong connections, and learn to trust your body. The obvious reason why anxiety ramps up at this time of year is that Christmas is fast approaching. In Australia, at least, it's a significant end to the year as well. Kids go on holidays for a long period of time. Everything else seems to shut down for a good 4 or 5 weeks, not until sort of February when things come back online. So business, everything. So everyone's scrambling to get things done, to get all the things that they wanted to get done before the end of the year, preparing for Christmas, holidays, all of those different things. So of course that's going to create a level of worry and anxiety. That's a given. But it's also exacerbated by that feeling of not having done enough, getting towards the end of a year and then feeling like I wanted to do so much more. I wanted to achieve so much more. I wanted to be further ahead. Maybe look back at what you'd planned for the year and you look back and think, I didn't get anywhere near the things that you'd planned. And that creates a level of anxiety because there's a part of you that's still playing out this pattern that is trying to be enough by doing enough. And this is a program that's pretty hardwired in our society, that it's all about hard work, pushing yourself through, getting things done. And it's been a pattern running for a long period, generational. And it's the accepted behavior in many different places. It's also taught in a lot of different places. And there's that element of just trying to keep up with everyone else and what they're doing. And yeah, there's a lot of depth to it. So there are two main drivers for the anxiety. This is apart from the obvious end of the year element. Have I done enough? And am I good enough? Now, the first one I've already discussed there briefly, feeling like you've never done enough. And you might have that feeling of no matter how much you get done, you never feel like you've done enough. You might have a bit of a pattern with your work where you could literally be there for hours and hours and hours, but you still wouldn't have enough done. You still wouldn't walk away feeling like you got enough done. Now, the other one is, am I good enough? And that anxiety gets us when we've got something coming up where we have doubts about our ability to hit the right level. It might be it could be a performance of some sort. So whether it's sport, you have to talk in front of people, a presentation, something else at work, even just connecting with people that maybe you don't feel 100% comfortable with. Could be any number of different circumstances. And you worrying about how you are going to present yourself, how you're going to look. Will I be able to, present myself in a way that I feel good about? And you'll have that feeling of self-doubt that will show up sometimes as anxiety. Now, obviously, there's an element of being prepared for those different events which are going to help. But sometimes no matter how much preparation you do, there's going to be an element of that anxiety. And I want to explain to you today what's actually playing out. At a young age, from a very young age, our brains look at the world very simply, particularly when it comes to our parents who we're spending the most of our time with from that age 0 to we start going to school. And it's from my parents' reaction, do they love me or do they not love me? And The reaction when our parents are at the peak of their reaction, your young brain equated that to loved. And then anything less than that, your young brain says, oh, must not be loved. So you can see there how that pattern would then play out, where you're always trying to win your parents' love by doing enough or being enough. And this pattern gets hardwired. It plays out as adults now, like you're still having that same reaction. And well, it doesn't mean your parents are there necessarily, but there's still that pattern playing out in your subconscious that is feeling that reaction if whatever situation you're in, you don't get that high reaction that you were wanting. Now, particularly on that performance, am I doing well enough? If that anxiety shows up and you don't have tools to deal with it, then you don't perform at the level you know you're capable of, and you walk away from that experience disappointed that you didn't give yourself the best chance, that you didn't present yourself in the best possible way. You might even feel judged about how other people saw how you presented. I'm thinking something like playing golf, for example, that maybe you were trying to impress people or just wanting to hold your own, but then you go there and you don't really play well, and then maybe you walk away from that going, oh, I didn't really give myself the best chance. And you may have that experience at work as well. You may have it in a family environment, and then you end up disappointed in yourself and maybe a bit down on yourself because you know you could have been much better. Maybe you could have said something different. You could have done something different. You could have had better boundaries. You could have looked more confident, more assertive, whatever it is. And it's still this pattern playing out, this part of you that is going to have an emotional reaction if you're not feeling like you did enough, that you were good enough, that you showed up in the best possible way. Now, these sort of patterns, and for anxiety, you may not even feel it as anxiety anymore because you've got really good at suppressing it. You've got really good at coping. It could just be it shows up as overthinking. It could be that it shows up as like a inability to move forward, a distraction, an avoidance. Maybe you avoid certain situations because of that pattern. And when you suppress anxiety, sometimes it can also show up as frustration. So this pattern of trying to be enough and do enough to win your parents' love that's still playing out, these are the sort of things that are driving you when you hit those times where you just feel that weariness that's hard to explain. You keep pushing on because that's the pattern, but it's that burnout feeling. You got too many fires burning, you got too many things on. It exacerbates that feeling of failure, of inadequacy, of I didn't do it well enough there. And it's sometimes when you're at that point of burnout, it's like life is showing you this in a whole lot of different areas. It's like, oh, here we go again. Didn't do that well enough, didn't do that well enough. And it's like life is just throwing all this in your face. And then sometimes that can lead to that feeling of just feeling stuck because you're getting distracted, you're procrastinating, you're avoiding, or you're pushing yourself so hard and you get just to the point of exhaustion and the whole loop starts again. So at this time of year, it's a great opportunity to take stock. And yes, you've got plenty on. But for me, rather than waiting until the new year, where maybe it might take you a few weeks or months to get going, you can set yourself up for next year by having these things in place now, by having a good plan of what you want to get done, by learning the strategies that are going to mean you're going to get that balance right. I've been at this place so many times in the past where I've got myself to the end of the year and I'm just hanging on to the end of the year. I burn out. The classic example about 4 years ago was when I was parking. We have a single driveway and then it opens up into a double garage, and I crashed one car into the other car because I was just so tired and not concentrating properly. So I know that pattern of all of these things I've already talked about, and then getting to that point of exhaustion, hanging on to the end of the year. I also know that by getting yourself the structure in place now, you're going to set yourself up for a great year. You're going to know when that burnout's starting to happen. You're going to know when that anxiety is there, and you're going to know how to put things in place in the moment so that you don't keep repeating those patterns, so that you do feel confident in some of those situations where you don't. So you're not continuing to drive yourself on through this pattern of trying to be enough. You slow down because you realize that you have the capacity to not say yes to everything, and that not everything is as important as you think, because you remove that pattern of just have to get it all done. Now, this week in the Sport is Life movement, I'm doing a mini training to help you get yourself set up for next year. It's one I haven't run for over 12 months. Used to run it quite regularly, every 4 to 6 weeks. I've modified it slightly, so it's a new improved version, but it will be just as effective. And all you have to do is join the group, which is in the show notes, the Sport is Life movement. And the training, 5 short videos from about the middle of this week. So date today is 9th of December. So around the 11th of December. And those 5 videos will be in there. So you don't have to get them all. You don't have to be there live for the training. The recordings will be there, so you can come back and look at them in your own time. But I do recommend you immerse yourself in that training in this period, the next 2 weeks. The videos will literally be 4, 5, 6 minutes long, that sort of duration, and small tasks to do each day to get you on track. So you start developing new patterns, and you start positioning yourself so that next year can be the best year. So you can get to the end of the year knowing that you're not exhausted, but you're actually organized, that you feel like you've done all the things that you needed to do, and you're starting to think about next year with momentum and being able to plan even more, because you've got these newfound ability to be balanced, to be calm, to have energy consistently, and being able to feel like you are hitting your potential on a consistent basis. So jump in there to the group with that link. It is, I think it's facebook.com/groups/Sport is Life, I think, but it's in the show notes there. You can jump in, check out that training, and get yourself set up for the year ahead. I'll speak to you tomorrow. You've taken the time to listen to this whole episode. Now it's time to take action. Commit to one thing you've learned today and make it happen. And to avoid any obstructions, join the Sport is Life movement by clicking on the link in the show notes.